All right, so took a break, and you can see the palette's still wet. And, I always take a little bit of time to reassess, kind of think about what's the best direction. One of the things I'm aware of at this time is that the flowers are going to move. Again, I've talked about this in other videos too. If you know that there's something perishable that's going to change, so for instance, those two flowers, they're obviously still in a photo, the petals at the bottom, but they're going to move the most. And those are going to be things that I have to focus on. By the time I get to the green one, it's shriveled because the petals like that'll shrivel very very fast. So I'm trying to move up through the roses now at the top. They have moved minimally, and that's the thing. Depending on how you're treating them in between, some people will put them in the refrigerator to kind of slow the you can put the whole thing in if you want. But I didn't do it. And my studio tends to be on the hot side, so I'm taking the risk. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll paint at nighttime and start the painting, and knowing that painting is setting, so it's going to set at different rates. So what I'm doing is I'm painting it at night, and then I'll come right back in the morning. So I kind of plan my time, I think, pretty well. Obviously not perfectly, but there's a part of the pursuit of it, knowing that it's gonna move. I can't paint. I don't want to paint from a photograph. It's just what I choose not to. Nobody in the atelier really paints from photography because there's just a difference in painting from life. I encourage you all to try that to see what the difference is. It's much more difficult to paint from life than it is from photography. Totally different outcome, I think. There's a sense of form, dimension, space when you're working from life because you can walk around the object. The object is moving, you're moving. But on a photo, it's very flat. But there are times when you're going to have to work from photography, so you want to learn how to do that well as well. I actually do the green leaf in this painting from photo. So I'm trying to kind of build texture with the paint. You see the way I'm holding the brush? Very, very loose. Loose meaning that I'm not pushing into the surface. I'm kind of dropping the paint, placing it onto the surface, not scrubbing it in. I actually just had to change the light here. And that's the thing, sometimes you just gotta change things in the middle. But you gotta think of these things. Paint doesn't just go on in one way. There's a whole connection to the way in which you're painting, in which you feel like a stylus. Stylus is this sense of like a brush. Think about calligraphy. If you push in with calligraphy, you get a different mark than if you barely kind of graze the surface. You get like a thin line. So I'm going back in and I'm trying to move forward with the rose on the left, but then I'm refining a little bit with the rose on the right. And, as I said earlier, in the earlier videos, the lead white dries pretty fast. It'll be dry tomorrow. One of the reasons why I absolutely love it these days, especially if you're trying to build texture in your paint. So it kind of forces you to grab more because it's very, very weak. So I encourage you all to try the two. Now I use the two of them because, two of them as in titanium white and flake white, because I feel like they kind of do two different things. So now that the roses are in, I don't want to just spend my whole time down there. I want to get a little more of the picture. And then I go back into the ground. So to get the box in there, it's funny, the whole thing, as I've said, is a psychology problem. You're basically saying, like, do I know what I'm doing? Kind of like trying to tamper down all the thoughts and talk in your mind. And, you get a little bit more and you uncover a little bit more of the picture and it begins to feel good. So sometimes when you get a passage like that and you're like, okay, now I see a little of the ground, you're always almost like, it's like playing chess. You're trying to think of like 5 steps ahead and you're always leading yourself to a better place. You don't want to, in chess, you don't want to put yourself in a bad position. In painting, you don't want to put yourself in a bad position. So you're trying to like calculate where you're going to be and put marks that uncover the picture. That's the goal here, is a picture. Again, it's one of those things I don't think many talk about, but the picture is what I'm after. So even just massing that in, tiny bit of mineral spirits, just to maybe loosen it up and push it in, push the paint into the surface. You can see I'm applying that. I was applying that differently. Now I'm back to putting paint up over the top. Very different feel to the way in which I'm pushing into the brush. Maybe one of these days I'll try to do a shot so you can be some like really high res video if I could do it. But to see just how how much spring is in the brush, and some people talk about that. I know Max used to talk about it, but he used mostly bristle brushes. So trying to get uncover the picture here, and that petal right there, just a little bit more texture over the top, having white go over the white so that the white comes up as a plane, the second pass, and now that thin light pass, the first one, now feels like it's going to roll a little bit. I mean, that's the hope, that it's like a petal. The hard thing about all this, of course, is just that when painting flowers and petals and stuff like that, you don't have a full range that you can work in. You're using a very, very tight, limited range. So here, just getting the bottom connecting the ground, so it feels like the pot now is, under the whole thing. It's quite fascinating. In the middle of this, I was like, oh, the pot feels round and feels pretty good. Makes me want to maybe do a couple more of these, maybe a series. And that's sometimes what I do. I've actually been doing that a lot lately. You get kind of wrapped up in a texture or a something, flowers, ribbons, whatever it is, right? A texture such as metal or pewter, and then you just let yourself wander for a while. I think it's a wonderful place to be, and one that I've just been playing with the last, I think, year and a half, something like that. Playing with different metals and pewter and stuff like that. So, and flowers, again, long journey trying to get better at flowers here. There are definitely some wonderful flower painters out there, and I look at the ones that have done them in the past. I don't particularly look at a lot of painters now. I think Mike Klein does wonderful flowers, and Kathy Speranza, Kathy Anderson too, and a bunch others. I would give them their flowers because they're fantastic at them, and maybe one of these days I'll paint with them to watch the way that they work. But yeah. So just kind of going through, and that passage right there, I'm trying to build the back so that it's the background is darker than that. I think that passage of blue right there. And therefore, I want to play with a little bit of the poetry here. That right there is oil that I'm taking and putting back onto it. There's a new product that I've been trying, which I think Gimlet's coming out with soon. And it's called the 3-in-1. Luckily, they've asked me to test some products out, and I'm always thankful. But they know the way that I work. I've done a ton of webinars and I have a friendship with them at this point. And they knew that I do a lot of underpaintings, and then kind of build it from there. And they said, you should try our 3-in-1, and they've had me test it. The 3-in-1, I believe, it's like a little bit of alkyd with mineral spirit and then oil, and that's the 3 all in one. And what it does is it just makes it so that you're not going to destroy too much of the paint film by having too much mineral spirits kind of mixed for you, which is actually, I told them, it's pretty brilliant. trying to figure out the right mixture at the beginning is one of the things you have to learn to master.